everybody, and welcome to another episode of This Week in Cleantech. It's a roundup of this week's biggest stories you need to know about in climate and clean energy, and we do it in 15 minutes or less because other people have got to use the desk. Today is... What is today's date? It says Friday on the sheet. Today's not Friday, brother. Today's Tuesday?
Are you lost again?
Today is Tuesday.
You renewable energy guys are always lost.
We're on the floor of RE+.
Plus.
I'm Renewable Energy Content Director Paul Gerke. This is Mike Casey from TigerCom.
How are you? You know, this is our 50th episode.
50?
Engel bailed on us. He didn't want to make the trek. He felt sorry for himself, so he put you up, but I think you're going to outshine him.
He's got a family at home.
That's a likely story.
Hey, listen, it's a long flight out to California, but I'm glad that you guys had me out here. And I want to thank all the listeners who are actually supporting us through 50 episodes and change. If you want to be a part of the show, there's a nomination process for getting your stories elected to this. There's apparently a secret email address that I don't even have access to that Engel's been holding over me under lock and key, rew@clarionevents.com. If you send a story there, it'll be considered for This Week in Clean Tech.
Absolutely. Well, you'll find that as you move up in the hierarchy of This Week in Clean Tech, you will get a
There's a hierarchy?
Yeah, you get a star trailer. There's caviar. Caviar mine, not an Engel's, because Clarion Events likes me better.
That's fair.
That's the way it is. All right.
I've got a lot to learn, Mike. But one thing we're going to start with are some four stories. We got some stories, clean energy stories. Number one from Kelsey Tamburino. Tell us about it.
She is she's on the wall of fame for This Week in Clean Tech, because we probably covered 4 of her stories.
There's a wall, too?
There absolutely is.
Learning so much.
Trump vows to pull back climate's law unspent dollars. Mr. Gerke?
Yeah, we talk about, getting money out and rolling it out before the potential of a change in presidency after this election. So last Thursday, Trump vowed to revoke, quote, any unspent funds that are in the Inflation Reduction Act if he's elected in November. So that's the impetus behind this push. Now, he's previously vowed to put that unspent money toward roads, bridges, and dams to ensure it's, quote, not wasted on meaningless Green New Deal scam ideas. Now, these comments have made the Biden administration eager to start pumping that money out, and we've seen that this past couple weeks. Trump also says he's planning a national emergency declaration to increase the U.S.'s energy supply despite record domestic oil production under Biden. In fact, the United States produces more oil than any place in the world and has for a few years now. He said he plans to cut energy prices in half or more within 12 months of taking office. But there's a caveat to that, Mike. It's quadrupling oil production. What do you think of this, especially in terms of are either of those things possible?
I don't think that 40,000 of our best friends know they're in on the scam. I don't think so. But, hey, what I think the former president may find out if he gets back into office is it's very easy to give. It's much harder to take away, and most of the benefits from the IRA are going to red states. So when you have someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who talks up IRA investment despite having voted against it, it's a sign that she's going to be reluctant to go along with an unwind strategy. Paul, story number 2.
Yeah, real quick on that, though, I want to mention that the red state investments, I'm seeing that so much more, Mike. I just wrote an article last week about Southern Ohio, one of the reddest districts in Ohio. They went 3-1 Republican in 2022, and yet they're finding a way to get green energy projects through that district. And it's sort of like, if it can be done here, it can be done almost anywhere.
100%.
Story number 2 from Zoe Schlanger of The Atlantic. Fine publication there, titled America's New Climate Delusion. What's in that one, Mike?
Grace Stream and his family are deeply rooted in Louisiana's oil country. They say oil.
Oil country.
Oil country.
You got to let it roll off your lips.
Yeah, oil country.
Oil country.
With land dedicated to oil and gas production, now Stream wants to become a family outlier and inject carbon dioxide underneath his family's properties, which I'm sure is a popular move. The IRA is giving oil and gas companies a tax credit to capture and store their carbon underground, which makes this process easier for Stream. Plus, Louisiana's geology is ideal for storing carbon. However, there's a catch.
There's always a catch.
Carbon capture and storage has been criticized as a lifeline for oil and gas companies to continue their operations. Mr. Gerke?
Well, I want to focus first on the job creation aspect, because we know LNG plants create jobs, but they're usually temporary construction jobs, like a lot of the temporary construction jobs in renewable energy development. And the plants have forced coastal residents to move inland because of erosion, explosion risk, health issues from LNG terminals flaring, and sea levels that are rising. just to name a few things. Carbon capture and storage could at least help reduce carbon pollution from these LNG plants, but nobody has done carbon capture and sequestration successfully at scale yet. Are you aware of a larger carbon capture?
I am not. And I got to say, I think I've seen a cogent case made that you got to capture carbon and stuff it underground from point sources before you can make it economically done, get it out of the air. But
if only it was so easy as doing this. And if we're going to have to figure out how to scale this tech, Mike, it could be an excuse for building more fossil fuel projects. Like you said, extending that lifeline. Now, Louisiana LNG terminals with carbon capture attached are being proposed, but only a small fraction of the pollution from those terminals will actually be captured and stored underground, as you referenced, making this climate solution look like a more of a way for fossil fuels to keep producing, and Louisiana, unfortunately, being the butt of the joke there.
Our third story, Ken Silverstein from Forbes. Natural gas is critical to achieving global climate goals. Here's why. There's about 300,000 fossil fuel bros on LinkedIn high-fiving at this beat.
Is that how many there are on LinkedIn?
I've counted.
You tallied them up?
Just last week.
So this article is another perspective on liquefied natural gas exports. So coal pollutes twice the amount of CO2 that natural gas does. So LNG exports could actually cut carbon dioxide pollution if that gas is replacing coal. The idea here is that first you get rid of the coal, the highest emitting fossil fuel, and then you get rid of petroleum and then gas last. I had a conversation this morning with Alexina Jackson of AES, who was talking about energy planning and that there's no just flipping a switch, even though we talk about flipping switches a lot when it comes to energy and power. It's not quite that easy, and you really do have to plan this stuff. And that coal to gas transition has already resulted in a 25% decrease in carbon dioxide levels in the U.S. That's off 2005 base levels, so about 20 years ago. But gas is still polluting, and the reason we can't make a full shift to renewables is because wind and solar are intermittent. We all know that. Storage is young and expensive. Although it's getting older, it's maturing, it's getting a lot cheaper, especially with lower lithium prices right now. But for the time being, we still need that gas to back up those systems. And we also need the infrastructure and grid upgrades before we can commit 100% to renewables. Look at what's happening in PJM territory right now.
Yeah.
It's 90+% renewables in their queue, and none of them are getting online anytime soon, at least for the next couple of years. Plus, there's the regulatory and political challenges to renewables, so it might make sense to switch from other fossil fuels to natural gas to at least do a little less harm while that happens, Mike.
So with all due respect to Mr. Silverstein, whose stuff I really like, I think he's smart, writes good pieces. So here's the thing. The people who say, well, it's too hard to energy transition without heavy reliance on gas, I say, you know what's really hard? Finding Planet B. And here's the problem. Frack gas is a technology that fails catastrophically, right? If you look at where the shale gas deposits are, they're almost 100% underneath aquifers. And well casings that pierce aquifers fail at a 1/3 rate. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs, second rung up is water. We can't get by without 3 days. So we're not making more fresh water here. And the concern is if you contaminate an aquifer significantly with fracking chemicals, it's impossible to uncontaminate an aquifer. So I think the fate of gas is TBD, although it's certainly going to be robust in the short term. Paul, what's our fourth story?
Fourth story by show alumnus Katie Brigham at Heatmap, entitled, "What If We Get Fusion But Don't Need It?" Mike, what's in that article?
We just talked about David Wallace-Wall's piece when solar would be free. Energy would be free by 2030, which is kind of astounding and is a thought exercise.
Remind me to go back to that. I got a point on that.
It's amazing. So Katie raises this interesting question, nuclear fusion, which people have been after for forever. Okay, so if you got it, what would you do with it? And the question is, what does it replace? Does it replace fossil fuels, or does it replace renewables coming online that would otherwise replace fossil fuels?
Why does it have to replace?
That's a good.
Why can't it just be the thing?
Because it's the car. It's the car. The entire, the entire energy cognoscenti have been chasing for the last 30 years, and they get their teeth around that bumper, they're going to get dragged around.
Right. It's the old expression. What happens if the dog actually catches the car?
Bingo.
Then
right.
what?
So here we have fusion. So it's a fascinating technology. It seems like it's coming within reach, but does it ever get there? And in case you haven't noticed from the temperature yesterday, we're kind of running out of time down here on planet Earth. We gotta kick this into higher gear.
Yeah, shout out though to the California ISO for handling 4 days of 100+ degree temperatures without any major issues. It says a lot about the battery adoption that they've added over the last year. We saw the same thing in ERCOT this summer, managing summer peak.
It doesn't say anything about the Hilton's air conditioning. Can I tell
No,
you that?
and nor the Marriott Suites. I was
Here.
drenched. It looks like I jumped in a swimming pool when I walked in here the other day.
Or you could have come out of your room at the Hilton. I checked in the room on Sunday night, and I walked down the hall. I opened the door. It's 91 degrees in the room.
Now it's just a couple old guys griping about how warm it is outside. We got to go back to the article. We're running out of time. So other experts think that no matter the energy mix of the future, that fusion is still going to play out in one way or another because it's more physically dense than solar and wind. You can get more from it. There's less land usage. And it's also a reliable large-scale energy source that's not limited by local factors, the limitations of sunlight or wind and the intermittency thereof, making it ideal for regions in the U.S. with fewer of those renewable resources around. One last thought there. Fusion might not play out to be a viable source of energy in the future, the article says, and that's the risk some venture capitalists are eager to take. I'm sure there's a few in the audience. They've poured more than $6.7 billion into the industry since 2022. That was a Dr. Evil thing. You remember Dr. Evil?
Dr. Evil puts the pinky up,
That's
pinky
what I
up to
did.
the mouth. No, he doesn't hold it up here like a cut.
Well, I got a microphone on my mouth. What do you want
Would
me to
somebody
slap
settle
it?
this guy on Dr.
Jeez,
Evil, please?
Pete.
Okay, all right. So
That dates us a
our
little
fifth
bit.
story, our guest for fifth story is going to be you, Paul Gerke, because you are, first off, this is our 50th episode, and this is your second RE Plus, and I want to know what it's like to come back with 40,000 of our best friends.
It's my second day at RE Plus. I had never been to an RE Plus before arriving here. And so like I've heard a lot, right? So my company does Distributech. We know what a big event that is. But the scale of this, the being a part of the 40,000 plus and the 4-day cornucopia of renewable energy that is poured out into this space, it's overwhelming. And it's not just because of the heat, because you feel like you want to be a part of it all, and you can't because you're just a person. So like this time that I'm spending with you could have been spent at a great session. You know what I mean? But instead, we're celebrating the 50th episode of a show that I've never been on
this week in
before.
Cleantech.
Well, you waited 49 episodes to tap me for this, so, you know.
Best for last.
Yeah, something like,
Come
it's
on.
last? Is this also the last episode? No, what do you like about RE Plus? Because you've done this before. The new guy is one thing. I'm drinking from a fire hose today. What about you? Can you see the
Oh my God, I've been coming here for
calm
18
to the
years.
chaos?
Yeah.
Even when RE Plus isn't here, you just show up at the convention center and just asking for a free cup of coffee.
It is, I saw Stephen Miner going up the stairs on yesterday morning. I said, Stephen, I'm counting on you to get over 50,000 people. He said, might be close. I thought, damn, they're going to have like 48,000 people here.
That's still a lot of people.
It's a lot of humans.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, Paul, thank you for joining us for our 50th episode. It's really cool. You got to do Cleantech of the Week, my friend. They're going to take us out.
We got a Cleantech of the Week? This week's Cleantech of the Week. Luigi Resta, president of R Plus Energies. Matter of fact, Mike, this is a humble plug for myself. I'm talking to Luigi this week. I got an interview lined up with him. So I guess
What a coincidence.
I'm ahead of the game. Luigi recently called on his LinkedIn following to form a solar industry equivalent rallying cry of the Got Milk campaign. Another thing that'll date us a little bit. You remember the Got Milk commercials?
A young guy like you talking about me, us dating, I'm the dated one.
But you remember the Got Milk, right? You had a TV at that time?
I was a grandfather by the time Got Milk came around.
Luigi mentions that other industries have found a way to emotionally engage people, but the solar industry seems to be lagging behind, but he got a lot of attention with the Got Milk equivalent there. So congrats to Luigi, our Clean Techer of the Week.
Going to give a shout out to our terrific producer, Brian Mendez, and
Brian.
Claire Quirin and Alex Peterson for gathering these stories and help us identify the best ones to bring to you. And Paul, I want to thank you for being our guest on our 50th episode.
It sounds like we're going to do it again tomorrow. Or is that to remain to be seen?
With this
a litmus test?
With this global crack operation, you never know.
There were more people here before we took the stage.
I do notice that. Thank you, my friend.
Cheers, brother.
Take
Had
care.
fun with you.
Thank you.